So for this talk, I'm not going to preach to you today. I'm treating this more as like a conference breakout. But I just want to talk about church evangelism strategies and like a holistic strategy to reach your community with the gospel. As a church planter in Wyoming, evangelism has to be your primary church growth strategy. You can't. There's not enough disgruntled Christians in Wyoming to put out a sign and plant a church. Like, it's not going to work. And every church planter I've seen, and every really pastor I've seen come to Wyoming that really struggled, had that mindset. If we just go and preach, and if we preach it perfectly, people will come. But that's not the reality in Wyoming. Evangelism has to be the primary strategy of planting a church. You got to meet lost people. You got to love your community. You got to love lost people. You got to invest in new disciples, and you got to enlist the church to be a part of the Great Commission. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. Typically, when I teach this, like a basic evangelism class, I have 3 hours to teach this, but it's already past my bedtime, and I know you guys don't have 3 hours. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on like the theological background. But God is a sending God. He did not sit back and just wait for us to figure it out. Like, He is a sending God. And we see that from Genesis to Revelation. He is a sending God. And so He is sending the church, and He is sending the people of the church outside of the walls to reach their community with the gospel. You go through the entire Bible, He is a sending God. We see it beginning in Genesis 12, Isaiah 6. We love that passage. That the Old Testament ends with God promising through the words of the prophet Malachi that He's going to send a special messenger as a forerunner to the Messiah. And then it begins with that forerunner in John the Baptist. John 3:16, God loved the world that He sent His one and only Son. My favorite verse, Romans 5:8, God demonstrates His own love for this. While we were still sinners, He sent Jesus. Like, you read the parables, He's a sending God. Okay? He doesn't sit back and wait for the lost to figure it out. He is a sending God, and I believe He is sending us. Evangelism isn't just a class or something that pastors do, but it's something that we've all been called to do. And so as a church planter and pastor, we did a lot of different things to try to reach our community. But about 4 years into our church plant, I heard Dr. Orge teach on evangelism, and he talked about these 3 different styles of evangelism, or 3 different distinct areas of evangelism. And it was like a light bulb went on for me, not because it changed what we did, but it gave language to what we were doing. And it helped me to strategically think through what we were doing, and it helped us to strategically plan for what we are going to do in the future. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about those 3 things, those 3 strategies, and hopefully it will give language to you as well as it did for me. So as we begin, I want to take 3 or 4 minutes, and with whoever you're with or by yourself, I want you to just I think you got a journal. That's perfect. On a journal, write down every evangelism event or strategy that you and your church have used for the last 2 years. So just start making a list. Like, it can be VBS, it can be Sunday morning worship, it can be Easter egg hunt, it can be a car wash giveaway, it can be Upward. Just write everything that your church has done the last 2 years as an evangelism effort. And the good news is, as we talk through this, there are no wrong answers. Like, we're not like saying some things are bad and some are good. It's just to help you evaluate big picture what you're doing. All right, you guys keep on writing. That's probably more important what I'm going to share with you anyway. So just keep working on that, and I'll talk, but ignore me if you need to. So we're going to talk about 3 different strategies. For the titles we're going to give them today are attraction, engagement, and infiltration. And I'm going to say it over and over. None of these are bad. Like, that's not the goal, is to say something is bad. In fact, I think a synergy of the 3 would probably be the best approach. But typically, we tend to land heavy as churches in one of these 3 areas. And so my goal is to, again, give you some language and get you thinking outside of the box where you might land heaviest, and then encourage you to think strategically in diversifying your church's approach to evangelism. So the first one we're going to talk about is an attraction strategy. Oh, there. See, I'm going to be like 4 clicks behind the whole time. All right. So what is an attraction strategy? An attraction strategy is an event or something that happens at the church where the people come and they hear from us. It's done on the church's campus. Come and hear our message on our terms, in our context, in our location. I said it's the Field of Dreams mindset. Like, if we build it, they will come. And And the belief is that if we can make the church attractive enough, people will come to it. So that's an attraction event. It's anything that you do at the church where you get to control the message, like your Sunday morning service. This would be an attraction event. VBS at the church would be an attraction event. Like we have some churches that do Upward. That's an attraction event because you control the programming and it's at the church. So those are attraction evangelism strategies or events. Come on. All right, tends to be the go-to strategy of the local church. All right, so there's some huge strengths to attraction events. Number one is we, as the church, get to control the messaging. We get to control the programming. We get to make the plan. We get to work ahead of time. It's an easy setting for us to share the gospel, and that's a huge pro. Like when it's at the church, we can share the gospel openly and boldly. Attraction events are often easy to get people within the church involved with. Because it's comfortable, it's at the church. We can get people to come serve, set up, invite, share, teach, perform, greet. We control everything at an attraction event as a church. And so that's a huge strength. I don't know my clickers. Oh, and it's comfortable. It's easy for people to serve. It's the traditional model of evangelism, or it's what we do naturally as churches. We have events at our church. This is testing my eyesight. All right, weaknesses of attraction events. The church is foreign to many, if not most, in our community. And so just the church campus is a huge barrier to many ever coming and hearing the gospel at our attraction event. It can be uncomfortable and intimidating for the unchurched to enter into a church building. Like I've been in church since I was 2 weeks old. In this role, every weekend almost, I get to be in a different church. And when I show up at a new church that I've never been to before, even in this role, like there's some butterflies because I don't know what I'm walking into. Like I don't know what's going to be when I open the door. And then oftentimes you enter that door and like nobody knows you exist. And like no one talks to you. And like it's really an uncomfortable feeling even for me in this role. Like you can imagine the barrier the church is to someone who's never set foot in a church before. And I think you would... maybe you wouldn't be, but there are a lot of people in our community that have never stepped foot in a church other than maybe for a funeral. And those are their only experiences. And so the building itself becomes a barrier to building relationships into the message. And then attraction events. It is a huge challenge to get, if our goal is evangelism, it is a huge challenge to get the right people to attraction events. At least in the world I run in, often people will have an attraction event. I'm trying to think what would be a good... Let's say you did a women's tea at your church, okay? Great attraction event. Lots of people come. People will be very excited because they might have 80 on a Sunday and they have 150 show up at an attraction event, at their women's tea. But when you start going down the roles of that, if your goal was evangelism, when 142 of the 150 go to another church, you have not had the right people at that event. Okay? Or VBS. VBS is a fantastic event. Like, VBS is amazing. But if your goal is evangelism, you've got to work really hard to build relationships. So my wife's helping lead this children's ministry conference. She led VBS at a church of about 750 people when we were in Oregon, and she ran a VBS. It was like 500 people. But her goal was always that 30% of the people were not from a church background. And we worked really hard to like empower the church to invite lost people to come. But it takes a lot of effort to get the right people to come to an attraction event. Okay, now if your goal for those events is discipleship and building people up, then you're getting the right people. But if your goal is evangelism, then we often don't get the right people to come. We often just gather believers from across the community for special attractional events, but we don't gather lost people. So examples of attraction events: Sunday morning worship, special events, Christian concerts, VBS, Upwards, potlucks, whatever happens at your church on your campus is an attraction event. So look at your list, and like I'm a very creative person, so put an A next to all of your events or strategies that are attraction events as you look at your list. So those are attraction events. Happen. You control the programming on your location. Is an attraction event. All right, so the next one is an engagement strategy or an event. Engagement. So what is that? So engagement is outside the church walls. It is off the church campus. So it is not on the church's campus, and it's in the community. Like it can happen at a park, it can have a coffee shop, home, it can happen at schools, the rec center. We did stuff at the senior center when we first started. Like it happens anywhere outside of the church's property. But the church still controls the activity or the planning. So the church sets the programming, the church has the messaging, the church makes the plan, just the location has changed. So that's an engagement event. So examples of that, so VBS would be an attraction event, backyard Bible clubs would be an engagement event. If you did a Christian concert, but you did it at the school as opposed to in the church, that would be an engagement event. A block party in a park, that would be an engagement event. Small groups in homes even, that would be engagement because you've gone outside of the church walls. Does that make sense? All right. Come on. It's just way too much responsibility for me. All right, outside the church walls is a huge strength, right? You're one less barrier, one step closer to the unchurched or the lost. Potentially, it's less intimidating to unchurched people. If anyone's like diligently taking notes and wants the PowerPoints, I'm happy to send those to you so you don't have to write. Potentially, it's easier for people to invite their friends to, coworkers to. Another strength is the church still gets to control the plan. They still control the programming. They still can be prepared. They still do the background checks. They can still share the gospel from the platform. And then there's lots of opportunities, again, to plan ahead for people to serve and to serve in comfortable ways. So there's a lot of strengths. Church still gets to do what they want to do. No wear and tear on your facilities, another strength. If you've been a youth pastor, you've been in trouble for this. So get out of the walls, you're in less trouble. All right, weaknesses of engagement events. There's additional cost often to rent facilities. Like, I planted a church in Green River, Wyoming. Like, we didn't have any money. So, or some of you some established churches especially have mortgages on their building. Like, it's hard to think of paying more money to do something somewhere else. It still can be intimidating for unchurched people to come to it because it's a church-sponsored event. They see the church's logo on it. They don't quite know what a church does. It's a little bit sketchy, and so it can still be intimidating for people to come. And then, you have to advertise really well for engagement events to get people to the right spot, okay? Like, you all know this. You can send out 100 emails. You can call everyone in the church. Like, you can send out a text an hour before, and someone's going to show up at the wrong spot. It's real. Like, we send out so many emails, and then people ask us why we didn't send them emails. Like, that's just life. And then you have to make a plan and have the people to serve to facilitate your event.
Rondie, you taking questions?
Sure.
On the church-sponsored event, they see your logo. Would you recommend if you're doing a community event, not saying, hey, this is my church, this is not Crosspoint, not First Baptist, whatever, not Living Waters, but just say we're having a community-wide worship service or church in the park?
I think if it's going to be church programming, the church is, you're going to share the gospel. I wouldn't do a bait and switch with people. I would not do bait and switch. I think if it's going to be a church thing and you're going to share the gospel at it, I'd put my logo on it. But if you're going to we're going to talk about, the next one would be, if you're not going to do the church stuff, if you're just going to serve and meet people, then I think you might be okay not to. But at that point, I don't know, you might as well. I don't know. I hate bait and switch. That makes me mad. So I don't like when people do that to me. And so I try not to do that to people. And so Green River is a very Mormon community. And so we were always very upfront with what we're doing because the Mormon church did a lot of bait and switch. And so people were very skeptical of churches just because of that. But we tried to always be forthright and serve. And I don't know. That would be where I would probably land on that. All right, so examples: backyard Bible clubs, coffee shops, Bible studies, community church service. So community Easter egg hunts. So Boyd Avenue is a church here in Casper. They used to always do a giant Easter egg hunt on their property. About 5 or 6 years ago, Pastor Ed changed that, and now they do 6 Easter egg hunts in parks around the city, and it's led by somebody in that community. So that they're trying to meet their neighbors and get them there. And so they took what was an attractional event and they made it an engagement event by moving it outside of the church walls, and they've had a lot of success with that. Block parties in the park, small groups in homes. So like, example from, are you sending me questions, Michael? Or okay, no. And so like we saw like the church, when I planted a church in Green River, we inherited a building. And that church had been closed for 3 or 4 years, but that church had a really negative reputation in that community. Like Matt knows, at least by the time it died, it was not good. And so like we first got there, we're like, oh man, we're across the street from the high school football field. Like we're gonna do all this stuff in the church parking lot, and people are just gonna like love to come and be a part of what we're doing. Like people would literally cross the street to avoid us. And so we couldn't do anything on our property and get people to come, at least not early on. But if we went and did stuff in the park, we could get people to be a part of what we were doing. And so again, like that, depending on your location, it can be a bigger detraction the building can. Okay, so yeah, upward at community facilities. We had a church that we went to in Montana that did a fantastic job reaching the community, and so like they would give away backpacks at the farmers market every year. But again, they controlled what they were doing, but it was in that setting. Okay, so that's an engagement event or an engagement strategy. So again, the big difference between attraction and engagement is it's off of the campus of the church. So the third one we're going to talk about is infiltration. And so we're going to talk about infiltration as the name amongst each other. Like if you're going to like lead out with this with your church, I might not go with the name infiltration. Like there's other names like going or sent or incarnational evangelism. Because like if you call it the school and you're like, hey, we're looking for ways to infiltrate the school, like they're going to think you're like a jihadist or something. So like don't go with that. But I do like amongst pastors, like I like the word is accurate because we want to go to the community, but we do have not necessarily an ulterior motive, but we do have a bigger motive. We're hoping to lead to gospel conversations. But just be careful. Like, I know you people wouldn't call up a school and say that, but you never know which member might hear that and just like, hey, we're coming to infiltrate the school today. It doesn't go well. But friends, the world around us doesn't know Jesus. And they don't know the Jesus that we know. And because of that, it is our responsibility as a church to be sent and to introduce them to the Jesus we know. So I heard this story, of like a Yelp review. And so this lady went to this tamale restaurant. Her name was Rebecca. And so she got on there, she went and had a tamale, and she left a 1-star Google review on the restaurant's page. She said, absolutely awful tamale. It was chewy, stringy, and I couldn't even bite through it. 1 star. Okay? About 2 weeks later, she comes back and she leaves a second review. This one is 5 stars and writes, okay, I was just told I'm not supposed to eat the corn husk. That changed the whole experience. Seriously, the best thing I've ever tried. OMG. Sorry, I don't know how to delete my other review. My bad. But the world around us doesn't know the Jesus we know. The world around us, their understanding of Jesus, of God, of the Bible is based on the world's narrative. It's based on things they've heard on TV or the internet or on YouTube or from friends or things they have just assumed. And so as a church and as followers of Jesus, it is our job to introduce them to the real Jesus and to help take the husk off, per se, so that they can know and taste of the goodness of God. But because they don't know Jesus from a biblical worldview, it is more important than ever that we go and we share with them. Everyone doesn't have a parent or a grandparent or a neighbor or a friend that is sending them to VBS. I was talking to Johannes. Johannes is a church planner in Cowley just this week, and he was so excited because he gave 3 people Bibles in the last month. And he said that one of them called me. He was telling me all about this guy who got taken away from his family, and then he ended up in Egypt, and then he went back and forgave his brothers. He's like, yeah, that's Joseph. The guy had no clue who Joseph was. And that's the majority of our communities. Somebody's got to go and share the Bible with them and introduce them to Jesus. And so that's what we are called to do as a church. One of my favorite things we got to do is I got connected with, I I was 30 when we planted the church, so I was younger and more athletic. And so I got connected with the Green River High School basketball team. And so I would get to go and scrimmage the varsity team. Like, we had a group of us that would go scrimmage. And like, the head coach, her name's Lori Ivy. They have a female men's basketball coach. She's like, I didn't know a pastor could play basketball. And so she ended up coming to our church and getting saved, but it was all because we went and played basketball, and it broke down her understanding and her expectations of what a pastor or what church was. And so that's what we get to do. So that's what infiltration is. Infiltration is something that is in the community on their terms and on their conditions. And so you go and you serve as you were told to go and serve. Infiltration, you work through their processes, you work through their onboarding, you work through their needs, you work through their systems. Like, you don't get to go in and say, hey, this is how you really should be doing things. Like, that's not how it works. Infiltration can be organic, or it can be planned and intentionally sponsored by the church. And it can also be done, infiltration can be done by the church as a whole. It can be done by a family unit, or it can be done by the individual. So, examples, infiltration. So I'm going to share with you a few examples. So in Green River, like, the main festival is Riverfest, and it happens every August. It's very exciting. So when we first got to Green River, we're like, oh, we're going to go down to the Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to tell them we're here to help, and they're going to be so excited that we're here, and it's going to be awesome. And so I showed up at the Chamber of Commerce and introduced myself to Lisa, and I said, hey, we're a new church, we're here to serve, like, what can we do for you? And she's like, well, you can pay me $75 and we'll give you this plaque, and you're now a member of the Chamber of Commerce. And that was the extent of our initial conversation with them. And so, like, I would check in with Lisa about every month and just say hi, and, but there was never, she didn't know who we were, she didn't trust us, I don't know that she disliked us, but she didn't have a need for us. And so we did nothing with the Chamber of Commerce for about the first 6 months. And so that first August we were there, it was like, I don't know, Riverfest like August 12th. And she calls me on like August 8th. And she's like, hey, you came into my office and you said you would help us if we needed something. She's like, the Boy Scouts just dropped out and I need you. She's like, can you get 10 people together and come pick up garbage and serve for us? And I was like, absolutely, we can do it. And so what we did at Riverfest, it was an infiltration. We went and all we did was pick up garbage and serve shrimp at the shrimp boil. Like, we didn't hand out gospel tracts. We didn't hand out free water bottles. We did nothing other than serve. And through that, we built a relationship where we served and did whatever we wanted at Riverfest from that point on. We got introduced to her daughter. Her daughter came to faith. And by the time we left, like, we baptized, over the course of 9 years, we had baptized 4 of Lisa's family members. But it all came from just going and serving. Like, there was no agenda. Another example, when you're thinking about, like, well, how can we infiltrate? I say that Riverfest story because, like, we really wanted to infiltrate, but nobody wanted us, okay? And if that's the case, like, wait for an opportunity to open. Like, infiltration, you got to wait for open doors, and you got to look for needs, and they're going to look different in every community. So, like, man, when we first got there, we had a church that wanted to come and help us. They were from Texas. And they'd been to Wyoming before, and when they went to Wyoming before, what they did was they went to Cheyenne and they handed out, I don't know, they were so excited. They had the numbers. Like, we handed out 12,000 water bottles at some event. And I was like, well, that's fantastic. You're not coming here and handing out water bottles. Like, we're not doing that because there's people that make their living handing out water bottles, like, not by selling water bottles. Like, we're not undercutting people. And so you got to know your own context and your own setting and your own needs. So, like, one of the things, like, we couldn't find a lot to do. But our kids were playing soccer, and in Green River, everyone plays soccer down at Stratton Myers Park. And, like, for 6 weeks, every kid in Green River is at those parks. And from 5 to 8, they're playing soccer. And so we looked around and we're like, well, goodness, like, it's 5 o'clock. We're hungry. There's no food here. There's no concessions. Like, what if we just offered, like, we got a snow cone machine and a popcorn machine. Like, why don't we just see if we can come out, hand out snow cones at soccer? And so we didn't just do it. I called the director of the soccer program, and I was like, hey, Kevin, you don't know me, but this is who I am. Like, this is what we do. Is there any way we could come just hand out snow cones and popcorn at the soccer field? He's like, no. Like, there's no way I'm letting you come do that. I was like, okay. I was like, really? We'll just, like, all we want to do is that. And he's like, okay. So I sent another email, followed up, and we had when you live in small towns, it's all about relationships and connections. So Kevin was in charge of the rec sports program. My wife, coach in the gymnastics program. We became good friends with the director, like the big director. So it's like, hey, is there any way we could do snow cones and popcorn? Anyway, it trickled down, and finally Kevin's like, okay, here's the deal. You can come on this day, and all you can do is hand out snow cones and popcorn. Like, you cannot hand out tracts. You cannot preach the gospel. Like, he didn't know the gospel, but like, you can't talk about your church. Like, you can't do anything. We're like, fantastic, Kevin. Like, we'll do it. And so we went and we handed out, I don't know, hundreds of snow cones and popcorn. And so he goes, okay, well, here's the deal. You can come back next week on this day. And we're like, okay, we'll be there, Kevin. Like, thank you so much for the opportunity. And so we went and we handed out snow cones and popcorn. After 3 or 4, Kevin's like, here's the schedule. You let me know what days you want me to open the gate. And all we did was serve snow cones and popcorn. They let us hang our church sign out front, but that was all we did. But like, we were the snow cone church, and there's worse things to be known of than the snow cone church. But we met so many people, like, and it was the best part of that. Like, we didn't have hundreds of gospel conversations there, but we got to meet a lot of people. And more than that, like, the people in our church got to wear their shirts, and they got to own in front of their friends and their neighbors that they go to church and they went to our church, and it gave them a chance to invite people to come. This is my favorite picture up here. Like, it's not, we're going to talk about it forever, but we're the snow cone church. So the PTO at Monroe Elementary across the street from us, they found out we had a snow cone machine. And so they're like, on the last day of school, would you come serve snow cones? And so we served snow cones in the snow on the last day of school in May. And the kids ate them like crazy. But again, we just did what they asked us to do. There was absolutely, we didn't even wear church shirts to that. We just went and served. Another one, like, so my kids, this is in Casper. Woods Elementary is a school my kids go to in Casper. My wife became super involved in the PTO, and they were doing, so if you don't know this, you're part of the Southern Baptist Convention. Like, you all have access now to a snow cone machine, a popcorn machine, and bounce houses. People in the community find out you have access to snow cone machine, popcorn machines, and bounce houses, and they get excited. So they were trying to plan their back-to-school event. My wife's like, I can get us bounce houses. And so suddenly we were going to Hilltop. Hilltop Baptist Church sponsored the back-to-school event at Woods Elementary. And, you know, we had 3 giant bounce houses and snow cones and popcorn machines. Like, that's an easy way where we had an in, and we just got to leverage it and infiltrate. And there was no agenda, but it built relationships within those teachers, primarily at the school, where we've seen a couple of them come to church with us where we got to make that first connection. So I've done it through coaching. Like, I had a friend he's not there anymore, but he was in Green River, and he was like a big, like, he played like card games. Like, I don't know what he played, but he went to like Magic, the Gathering. I always made fun of him. Anyway, he played that. Oh, sorry. The good news is he played that, and he went to the game shop, and he met so many people doing that and built relationships and had them come to church. And it's like infiltration. I love the strategy because, one, you get to use whatever you love to do to reach people for Jesus. Like, I mentioned Johannes. Like, Johannes always jokes. He's like, you planted a church in sweatpants. And I was like, well, you planted a church on the back of a horse. Like, we got to do what we loved. We got to do what we love to plant a church and to meet people. And so, like, I don't know how to ride a horse, but I knew how to play football, so I got to coach. And so that's what I did. Like, you leverage what you love to reach people for the gospel. And it also empowers every single person in your church to do what they love and to use their job to reach people for the gospel. So, all right, we'll talk more about this. So, strengths of infiltration. It's most successful to the unchurched. You meet people where they are on their turf with no agenda. You're just there to love them, serve them, and build relationships. There's no agenda to it. And it gives everyday life purpose for every member of the church. And you get to, like I said, you get to use your talents, interests, hobbies, current activities for gospel advancement. Like, you get to do what you naturally do, but you do it with purpose. And it leads to gospel opportunities and relationships and opportunities to invite those we know to church. Like, we've seen those statistics. It's always like 70-80% of people say they were willing to come to a church if they're invited by a friend. We got to make friends first, though. And there's a lot of people in our churches and a lot of people in church leadership that, quite frankly, don't have any lost friends to invite to church. And so we've got to be intentional to make friends. Okay. those strings. Oh, low cost, high impact. There's no cost to this, really, if you have individuals doing it. And usually very little cost as you're doing it as a church. Come on. Weaknesses. The hardest thing about infiltration is there's no church control. Like, you're doing things completely on the world's conditions and terms. You got to go through all their hoops. Like schools often have ridiculous amount of hoops you've got to hop through before you can ever serve. But you just do it. Like, that's part of it. Like, you don't get to go into someone else's organization and tell them how they should do things or how you would do them better. Like that, especially in a small town, that's not going to go well. It breaks from traditional models of evangelism. It's harder for the church to organize. It's fluid. It's organic. And it's often slow developing. Like, it's easy to stand up here and tell stories of like what happened in 7 years, but it can often feel like you're not doing anything at first. And it can be intimidating for people to hear that they're called to go share Jesus with people. So examples, like easy examples, like empowering your church to coach, not just at Upward or not just at something easy, but encouraging your church to go and coach and be a part of the City League. Like, when I was pastoring, we would pray before the sports season. We would pray for all of our little kids' soccer coaches because we wanted to let them know that what they're doing mattered and had a gospel purpose. We would pray for our high school coaches. We would pray for our teachers before the start of the year. So encouraging people to go and to serve and be a part of things. You can serve as after-school tutors. Like, the schools always have needs if you will go and make yourself available and be willing to build up some trust over a few months. Like, they might not give you the keys to the school the first week, but often if you build a relationship, opportunities are there. You can volunteer to serve at your community events, senior center, back-to-school parties, jobs. But like jobs, clubs, hobbies with intentionality, you can always start with that. All right, so how do you get your church to do this? Or how do you facilitate or build this culture? Like, the beauty of church planting, like the thing I loved about church planting is like you get to build the culture up front. Like, if you're doing this, your church is naturally going to be a part of what you're doing. So you can preach and teach on it. Like we talked about, God is a sending God. There are so many passages of Scripture where he talks about he sent them out, and he is sending us out to go and do it. So you can preach about it, lay the foundation through that, teach on it. Oh, goodness. Okay. Those are all the same. Okay, there's all sorts of passages. Like, go to the book of Acts, parables, Great Commission, Jesus the Evangelist. Like, the Bible clearly commands us to go and to share the gospel. Like, it's not hard. But be very intentional in connecting people's lives back to the Scripture and helping them see that they're a part of it. One of my favorites, we had a guy in our church who had been a believer a long time, and as a pastor, like, I felt like this is all I talked about. Like, you feel like you talk about the same thing over and over. And like 3 months in, this guy comes, he's like, I never had someone tell me that I'm supposed to like reach people with the gospel. I'm like, well, that's awesome. You are. Like, and I'm sure people had told him that before. Like, that. I mean, I'm not trying to say like his background wasn't good, but I'm sure people had told it. But sometimes we hear it from a different voice and it connects. But like, this dude, like, he got on fire. Like, he was a high school teacher, and then he was my basketball connection. And so he's a basketball coach. And so, man, I'll never forget the Sunday we showed up, and he had 3 rows of people that were either his neighbors, coworkers, or friends. And he was just overwhelmed, like, that he had made a difference in people's lives. Like, a lot of people have not, I think they have heard this, but they've not had it laid out for them directly that, like, your work, your hobbies, your life has purpose and intentionality. And when people can see that there's a mission and purpose to their life, like, people want to be a part of that. Like, everyone wants their life to matter, and this is how their life matters. And so help people do that. All right, I might have skipped ahead there. Biggest thing you can do as a pastor is set a personal example and do it yourself. Be involved in your community. Be someone that serves and builds relationships and makes friends and does it with purpose. Like, go do it yourself. Like, I believe wholeheartedly that, and you guys might fire me for this, like, you cannot successfully plant a church in Wyoming spending 40 to 50 hours a week in your office. Like, you're not going to do it. You've got to go meet people. You've got to build a relationship with people. You've got to learn to love the place God has sent you to. You got to learn to love the people there. Like, you've got to go and meet people. And so you get to set the personal example. And then another thing you can do to help build this is just to share the stories and celebrate those that are doing it. So if somebody's invited their friend to church or someone's come to faith, connected with somebody else, share that story. Like, share what you're doing. Like, when there's opportunities to pray for people, pray for your teachers and let them know they're empowered, or your coaches, like those kind of things. Help to celebrate those that are doing it, and make sure that people know that it's a part of what you're doing. Share opportunities. So if your church has an opportunity to go and serve a school or go to serve at the festival, like, make sure everyone knows that they're invited to that opportunity to come and be a part of it and to experience what it is to just go and serve, and share how people can pray. Again, if you have something coming up, let the church be involved in praying for it. It's one of my favorite stories to tell. And infiltration can be anything. So it was like 6 years in, like, our family, like, I don't know what happened. Like, we didn't take our fluoride or something, but we were at the dentist every 2 weeks for like 6 months straight. It was awful. Like, I hated it. I hated paying the bills. I hated it. But my wife, who is, like, you want the expert, like, go talk to my wife. She gets in gospel conversations everywhere she goes. People love her. She's like, I mean, we'd been to the dentist like 6 times, and she's like, man, there's something going on at that dentist office. I was like, okay. She's like, every time I go, people are asking me about our church, and they're asking about God, and, like, the hygienist, like, God's doing something there. It's like, well, we're certainly there enough. And so we started to pray intentionally for that dentist office. And then we asked our small group, we said, hey, like, something's going on. Like, I don't know why we're at the dentist so much, but, like, the hygienists there are, like, they're talking to us. And so, like, both dentists were super Mormon, but the hygienists, like, they talk to us all the time. And so we went, literally for 6 months. Like, we probably went 15 times in 6 months. And finally, one of the hygienists came to church. And her name was Lindsay, and she was awesome. And she came to church, and she was like a Lydia type person. Like, she invited everyone. Within 2 months, her sister and her husband were coming. And the coolest thing about this is her sister and her husband had previously been in Kimmerer, and they had gone to Al Bella's church, and he had built a relationship with them. He actually married them, and then they ended up in Green River and had fallen away from church and had not gone. So Lindsay was from a Mormon background, and so her whole family was. And so by the time we left, we baptized Lindsay. She came to faith. I think by the time we left, we had baptized 11 family members of hers or her friends. And that was all because the dentist office, like, we started to look at that with intentionality. Like, God can use anything where you are, if you look at it with intentionality, to share the gospel. And he multiplies it and does incredible things. So let people into what you're doing and pray with you. That was where I got to that story. Like, we had people praying with us for that dentist office. That was one of my favorite things. Like, when we got to baptize her, we got to tell her afterwards, hey, like, we've been praying for you for like 18 months, and not just us, but like our whole small group has. And that was pretty cool story.
So your fourth point then is dental.
No, I would not recommend the dental route. I would, yeah. What? Yeah. And often, like, yeah, like yeah, I don't know if Jesus is calling you to your hygienist, but he was for us. And so the crazy thing about that is, like, we went back. I was in New Mexico at their evangelism conference, and I taught on this, and I went back and looked at it. We have not had a cavity in the last 5 years in our family. It was like, clearly something was going on there. And then as a pastor, you got to schedule time for this. If you believe this is a priority, you got to schedule time for it. And talk about that. Like, again, as a church planner, you have an advantage because you get to kind of set the culture. But, like, when I went to meetings and talked about, like, our budget or our schedule, like, our church knew that when I left at 3 o'clock to coach middle school football, that was as important to what we were doing as a church as my sermon prep was. Like, they believed in it. They believed that, like, that was something that was important for us to do. And so you have to schedule time for it in your schedule, because otherwise you will not have time. It's got to become part of your schedule. All right. And then talk about it everywhere you go. Okay. Yeah. All right. the biggest thing you can do, like the hardest thing with infiltration is it's hard to find the opportunities and the needs. And so you got to really be looking for that. But the greatest way to find infiltration opportunities is look at the people within your church that are already doing it and leverage their opportunities. So I talked about Trey. Trey was a basketball coach. He coached multiple sports. And so we just came alongside and supported him. So like one of their needs when we were there was like they had Friday team dinners and no one to provide those. I'm like, well, I can. Most of our outreach revolved around our Traeger smoker. And so like we could smoke food. And so we made food for them. And it got us into areas, and then we came along with those who were doing it. So Trey was doing that. That one connected with me because I like sports. But there are others that didn't connect with me. Like we had people that were really involved in the drama department. Like, I don't do drama. If you've not heard my singing story before, I'll share that with you at another time. But like, I don't have any musical skills whatsoever. But like, we had people in that world, and so we went alongside and supported them. So find the goers and then support them and pour fuel on the fire. Start with a small group that are doing it and do all you can to facilitate their infiltration and the opportunities they have. All right. And then when you have, like I said, when you have opportunities, get people involved. When you're serving, get as many people involved as possible. Find the easiest opportunities to get people involved. Let them pray, let them serve, let them make food, let them clean up, let them invite, let them communicate. So like when we first did basketball team dinners, like at first it was just my wife and I that would do the food, and then gradually we tried to get more and more people to be a part of either serving or making the food, but like get people chances to be involved. All right, I got 6 minutes. The other one, if you're going to infiltrate, you've got to train and equip people to share the gospel, right? We said there's a bigger goal at the end. Like we don't want to just make a lot of friends in the world, but we want to be pointing them to Jesus. So find ways to train the people of your church to share the gospel. Like pick a strategy that works and that people will use, and then train them in that. Like I'm not like, oh, you got to use 3 circles, or you do, I don't know, creation cubes things or something. Like I'm old school, I guess. I do Romans Road. Like, but find the one that works for you and then train people in it. And then again, the best thing is the synergy of these 3. Like one of the great things about infiltration is you build relationships where you can invite people to come to church to your attractional events. All right, so make it easy for people to invite their friends to your church. Make it easy for people to invite them to events that you're doing at church. And then, by golly, if you're going to have people out there making friends and living with intentionality and leveraging their relationship to invite them to church, you as the pastor have to share the gospel at church. Like I said it every week, not every week, but often when we talk about evangelism, I told the people in our church, like, I will share the gospel every single week. No matter what we're preaching on, the gospel will be shared. Okay? Because if somebody is going to leverage their relationship enough to invite and take that step of faith to invite their friend to come to church, and they're going to come to church, and they're going to come through that barrier of being at church, like they better hear the gospel. And so as a pastor, like you got to share the gospel. It's got to be a priority because it does 2 huge things. One, you are teaching your church how to share the gospel each and every week. Like they're learning how to present the gospel. And 2, someone may be there and that might be the only week they ever come and they better hear the gospel at your church. So share the gospel, make it easy for people to invite, and then share the gospel. All right, what else I got here? So yeah, I just reminders, like if you're thinking about infiltration, you've got to figure out what works in your context. Like what I did is probably not going to work in your context. What Tyler does probably won't work in your context. What Matt did in Kansas is not going to work in your context. Like you got to know your context. And so you got to get out there and meet people and figure out what works. Leverage the opportunities you have. Do what you're asked when you're asked to serve. Like do not bait and switch people. Like do not do that. If you want opportunities to die, they will die quick. Serve willingly. And then I said, as you're going to talk to your schools or your community, don't tell them you're trying to infiltrate them. Come up with something else for that. But and then really like evaluate the needs and don't like I said, I've seen people do this so many times. Don't undercut people. Like you want to build enemies, like serve free food where they're charging for food. Like don't do that. Like people don't like that. Like there's times to serve free food and there's times not to. Like you've got to be socially aware of like what the need is. And it's so important because you can be trying to do a good thing and you can build distrust and enemies in a hurry if you're not super intentional with that. Another guy that does this really good is, like I said, Johannes planted his church the same Sunday we did. So we've walked through church planting together, and so he had the target audience of cowboys. And man, it took him 5 or 6 years before he had cowboys come to his church. But it is crazy what's going on now, like up there. They just started, one of the cowboys he led to faith just started a Bible study in Mititsi, and they had 10 people there for the first time. They had their second one last week, and this guy is leading it. And so it takes time, but those relationships, God will bless them as you build them. So.